guys, welcome to Cosplay Stitch and Seam. I'm Pannon.
I'm V-Fire.
And I'm David.
Hooray! It is Black Friday when we are recording this.
Yeah,
hope you guys
sales.
Found some good deals. I did. I got a new serger. It's a vintage serger, but it's new to me.
Yeah, for $50, and I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I was sick this morning. I should have gone.
Yeah. But yeah, how about you guys?
Mostly computer parts.
Yay.
That's been it for me. And they haven't been like, oh yeah, look at this great, like, steal of a deal. It was like, okay, well, that's slightly discounted. I will take it.
Nice.
Yay. Hey, slight discount is slight discount.
It is. And I will take it.
Yeah. I took advantage of some Etsy sellers, so I've got some
good
on the way.
Good. Well, we miss hearing from y'all at home, so if you want to drop us a line, you can contact us on our email at CosplayStitchandSeam@gmail.com or
go to the website, CosplayStitchandSeam.com, and fill out the Google form. Ooh,
You can go to our Facebook page, and on our Facebook page, you can join our Work in Progress Wednesdays after you tell us your cosplay horror story, happy story, or anything in between. While you're on the internet, you can also leave us a review on Stitcher or Apple Podcast or wherever they let you, and we will give you a shout out on the show. And it's now time, the seasons of giving and caring, and one of the ways that you can give and care is leave us that review, share the podcast with a friend, or go to our Patreon, patreon.com/CosplayStitch, and join our awesome group of people that get to join our D&D game. It's so exciting.
I think this episode's going to drop shortly before our next stream, so if you guys are listening, it's going to be Sunday, December 6th at noon. If you're part of the Patreon, you can view it live, chat, and sometimes even influence the outcome. If you can't do a full-time Patreon, there's always our coffee account, which is open for just any little spare change you got lying around that helps us with our costs for maintaining our website and podcast. I hear Mercedes laughing at me.
It was just like, you're just like,
gosh, I think that's all the announcements. Mercedes, since this was a topic that you were very inspired to bring up, do you want to introduce it?
Yes, I would love to. So, our topic this week is about that lovely green-eyed monster that we all have inside of us. I noticed that on a lot of cosplay groups online, whether they're through Facebook, Discord, or other groups and whatnot, there's always somebody that comes up with, hey, I always feel X, Y, and Z when I see somebody else wear X, Y, and Z costume, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's feelings of jealousy, feelings of I'm not good enough, feelings of all those different things. And I kind of wanted to talk about that today. It's that feeling where you go to a convention and you see somebody wearing the costume that you've been just dreaming of making, and they've made it so good that now you're like, well, why should I make it?
Right.
Or you're like, well, I wanted to be the first one. Or, those sort of feelings. And,
right.
Like, I wanted to preface it with, it's okay to have those feelings. It's okay to have that green-eyed monster, feeling in the back of your head of like, I'm really jealous of that. But what's important is how you act upon it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this a lot over the last couple days. And of course, there's always the, like, at the con, like, somebody getting more attention, somebody doing the same character, somebody, doing something that you wanted to do, but before you could do it, etc. But I think it also extends, like, online if you, like, see someone with way more likes than you have, or somebody getting more financial support or sponsorship than you have. If you see someone with a different body type than you have getting more noticed, I guess. If you see people with a better quality of costume getting more attention, I had
a long time where anytime I saw an Aloy cosplay, especially if it was the Carja Blazon, which I had made, anytime I saw that online and getting like tons of attention, I would just get this like heartache feeling. And like trying to get myself to be like, it's okay that I'm having those feelings, because it's like, these are really good costumes. I wish mine would get that kind of attention, but it's also okay that it's not, you know?
Yeah.
It's just hard to convince yourself of that.
Yeah. I think you brought up a good point. Like, it's okay to feel that way and think those thoughts, but what matters is how you're acting on it. Or, you know, lack of acting outwardly on it. I can't remember the quote, but it has something to do with, like, you can't always control the first thought that comes into your head, but you can control what you do about it. Oof. And whether it's, like, replacing that thought with a more positive thought, whether it's, you know, understanding that, you know, it's okay to feel that, but not, like, outwardly hurting anybody with those feelings, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's also one of those things that it's very easy to say and very difficult in the moment to always do.
Mm-hmm. No, that's something that, like, where mindfulness comes into play, where you are constantly more aware of what you're processing through. And it's one of those things that's really difficult to start doing. But once you get the hang of it and you start recognizing that, yes, I have these thoughts, and sometimes they're something that I can't really stop, but at the same time, I get to react to that in the most appropriate way. There was a time when Kaylin and I would be playing Twisted Metal when it came out for the PS3, and it would be like, yeah, I could make this. I could make that red light. If I just gunned it right now, no one would see me. It'd be perfectly fine. That thought isn't good, but it's the reaction to it, right? So
right.
It's one of those things that, like, it comes in all these different forms, and by having mindfulness of, okay, this is kind of intense thought. Let's not do something that could, you know, easily get me a ticket or killed.
You know.
No, I mean, I think that's a good mindset to have, though, because in the end, it comes down to, like, we can affect how we feel about things. We can affect what we do with those feelings. But we can't, you know, change how someone else feels. We can't always, you know, change minds or, like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, we're responsible for our own personal, like, bubble of how we decide to live our lives and feel about things. And all you can do is, like, try to build that up and make that the most positive experience you can. And those negative feelings can really get in the way and bring that down. And finding positive ways to deal with them is going to make you feel a lot better in the long run.
Yeah. And it's like, in positive ways, like, what I wanted to talk about today is, like, positive ways that it can help bring you up without tearing the other person down as well. Because that's one thing I see a couple people kind of default to is, well, they made this part wrong, or that part was inaccurate, and they'll just immediately start nitpicking all the things that are wrong with this other person's costume.
Sure.
And you need to avoid that. We want to be building up and not tearing down in our community. And so I wanted to kind of look at those little bits of advice, the do's and don'ts of how to react to your feelings when you see something that makes your heart ache.
Okay, yeah.
So some do's and don'ts. I'll kind of go back and forth on these, I think. One do is ask how they made their costume. Asking somebody how they made the costume, especially if it's one that you are dreaming of building, you can learn something cool. Or if you're like, hey, this part of the costume, you know, I personally haven't figured out how to make that part yet. How did you make it?
Sure.
And then
No,
sorry.
go ahead. Sorry, David.
Interrupting each other.
So, alongside, like, asking how they made their costume, one of the things that helps me is to find things about the costume that you do really like how they've done it, that you can appreciate and you can actually go up and talk to them about, like, saying how they made it, but also, like, finding things to compliment, being like, I really like how you did this, like, building them up, also knowing that, like, telling them they did a good job because they did. And I find that builds a lot more bridges than burns.
Yes.
And, like, having that willingness to learn is really going to benefit you in the long run, because maybe it is, like you were saying, Mercedes, something that you would have struggled on, and having the perspective of someone who has been there and already tried and probably, like, tried and failed several times trying to make it, having that experience so you don't have to go through all that same different kind of heartache can be really helpful.
Yeah, it can be incredibly helpful. When I was researching how to do the Zora armor for Link, I actually reached out to a couple of different cosplayers where I was like, these are really amazing builds. And I asked them, what was the hardest part? That's another thing you should ask. That's another do. I guess I'm doing just the do's right now.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, do those do's.
But it's like, it's another do. It's like, ask them, what was the hardest part that took for them? And it turned out for like a lot of people for the Zora armor, it was that darn scaled vest. Is like, how do you put
I remember you like agonizing over this.
Oh my gosh. Even though like I came up with, a method that I thought was good, it still has problems for me. And I'm like, is there really a right way to do this stupid vest? It's like there's, so many different ways you can go out there and be like, okay, so this person had an issue with putting, the Zora armor vest together because like it made it so that they couldn't move as much because of the material that they used. Now it's like, okay, maybe I want to use a different material. It helps you research and learn new things. And at the same time, you're like, I love this costume.
For sure.
I think something that a lot of people also forget is that this is something that they have also struggled with. Like it looks flawless on them. I will constantly look at some local artists that I follow on Instagram and whatnot, and I will say out loud, jokingly, I hate them. I hate them. I hate that they're so talented. But I also know on the same, and I'm saying this 100% jokingly. I'm so happy for them. I'm proud of their work. But they've worked hard to cultivate this. Like they didn't just start drawing like Picasso on day one.
Of course.
This is something that they had to struggle with. They've had to work hard on. And at one point in time, they looked up to somebody, and they are always going to be their own worst critic when they publish something. They probably don't even want to publish it in the first place. I'm not looking at a mirror in this situation. No, not at all.
So you ask any cosplay, like you maybe shouldn't ask, but if you asked any cosplayer, like to point out the flaws, they will tell you. Like, I am so like burning aware of the flaws on my costumes. Like they are definitely there, despite whatever magic you think may be happening, there are flaws.
No, 100%. And like, it doesn't even end with like, you see another Aloy and you're dressed as Aloy, it doesn't end there. It's, I was watching another cosplayer go like, yeah, and so I want this real kind of under metal technique. And so I'm going to do this thing on the paint and that's going to make it look really metal. And I was like, oh, you jerk. Why didn't you share this with me earlier? Because this would have been helpful on my Michael cosplay.
Right? But yeah, it's like there's so many new techniques that you can learn by seeing what someone else has already tried and tried and failed and then they found their success, and you can find your success that way too. So jumping over into the don'ts for a second, don't tear it down or demean the cosplayer. It can be really tempting to do that, to look at someone's cosplay, and I'm going to admit something here. Pannon.
Oh no!
What?
Oh no!
First time I saw you in your Fighty Flowrite. It's amazing. It's flawless. Okay, your fly is flawless, but stupid noob me was like, I can make it better, and I didn't.
No, that costume is like over a decade old now. It makes me feel old. And Mercedes, come over sometime and I will show you up close, and you will have different feelings about it.
Like, you have all these like pieces put together. You got like all the blue lines are like, I don't know how you put them on there, but they're like another fabric that you put on there, where mine were markered.
Nice.
And here I was standing there wearing mine going, mine's better.
When I'm looking at props, I oftentimes am looking at like, oh man, I can see that seam line, and this is an edge to walk on. So I'm not saying that like this should be the go-to, but once you're in these like healthy self-awareness practices, when you look at the like that, there's a seam line right there, and instead of saying, well, I can do it better, it's like, what could I do differently to make it to my standards? because maybe their standards are different. Maybe that scene line was okay with them. Maybe they ran out of time because they were doing con crunch or they were doing a YouTube video. And they, hit their deadline. But by saying that, you're acknowledging like, hey, there's a point that I think I would do it differently, but how? Like challenging yourself, and not necessarily just like, well, they failed at this. It's a, hey, I noticed this, and that would make me upset if it was on my prop. What can I do differently?
Right. No, I really like that mindset. Because, and definitely to a healthy level, because I think it's really good. That's kind of why I like cosplay competitions, as long as you keep it in a healthy mindset,
Yes.
Because having other people of the same crafting skill and of the same level and like bringing your best work against them in a competition, I feel like you learn and leaps and bounds. You push yourself so much harder when you have that rivalry, and it doesn't have to be like a mean, scary thing. It can totally be like a friendly rivalry.
Oh, totally.
Just wanting to improve yourself for these competitions. So that's one of the things. That's one of the reasons I like competition, is because I feel like I grow so much faster when I'm pushing myself that way.
And it's like I've made a lot of friends over Chic.
Oh, yeah.
Of people asking me how I've made mine, of me going and asking people how they made theirs, and just sharing in the love of this character that we all enjoy. There's another do of just like enjoy that somebody else loves this character as much as you, to the point that they dressed up as them.
Right. No, totally. Like, jumping back for a sec to competition, because I kind of wanted to mention, like, with WCS, which is like a huge level competition. It took till our fourth try to win it. Like, it was a lot of trying and failing, and just trying your best and falling on your face, and learning from those failures is like, I don't know, like, looking back on cosplay, like, I did not, like, when I started doing WCS versus when I finished, like, I learned so much more. My craftsmanship, like, jumped so much each year just from what I had learned. And that was, like, I mean, it sucks to fail, but you still get so much out of it as long as you're willing to have an open mind and learn.
Yeah. Also, like, so when I made the tricorn hat back in July, it was just kind of a fun little activity, and my brain was like, no, you must make it perfect. And my wife and roommate at the time, they were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Are you going to finish this? Because like you are doing such a great job. And I was like, what are you talking about? I've only watched YouTube videos on stuff like this. Like, this doesn't make any sense. This is beginner stuff.
Right.
But at the same time, like, that beginner stuff gave me that foundation to understand how to work with foam, how to cut it, how to glue it, all this other stuff. So don't discredit the fact that sometimes just watching somebody else do the work is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm giving you the check to be a little bit lazy sometimes.
It is okay.
No, I like that a lot. I had a point and it is now dull. I can't remember.
I'm so sorry.
You remember it.
No.
We'll go back to it. I think I wanted to put on there was like, on that idea of like, you're looking at their costume, you're seeing the flaws in it. Don't offer unwanted criticism unless they're asking for advice.
That one so much.
Yes. Don't go up and be like, you know, this, you got that seam there. Like David was saying, you know, you could see the seams. Like, you got this seam there. You know, that I know a way that you can actually hide that. And it's like, it sounds, you feel like you're trying to be helpful, but that often doesn't come across that way. And so I always wait to give advice if somebody asks for it first. Otherwise, I'll just point out all the good things that they like about it and ask them what they think is, you know, the hardest part of building their costume, not what they think is, you know, well, I mean, you could ask, it's like, well, what part do you think was the hardest to make? Or what part do you think, you know, you could have done better on? And let them answer that versus you.
Yeah. I was going to say, even online, especially online when you have the guise of anonymity, please don't do this. Like, People seem to think it gives you like a free pass to be mean and to say things about other cosplayers that, you know, without any backlash and make them
even
feel
if you
bad.
don't think you're being mean, you're like, I'm just being helpful. You're not going to grow unless you take the criticism. And it's
Right.
like, but there is a way to offer that without tearing the other person down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Again, it's that whole idea of building up versus tearing down, because making our community grow only has benefits.
Right. No,
tearing people down and to the point where they don't want a costume anymore, that's not what we want our community to be about.
Right.
And luckily, I don't see that happen a lot, but it's good to kind of check yourself before you wreck somebody else.
That's one of the things like that is so hard with judging when when the convention wants to let the cosplayers meet with you or talk with you afterwards to get constructive criticism, because it is an environment where they are asking and you are giving. Mm-hmm. And even then, I sometimes really struggle because, like, you know, you can point things out and be like, well, work on this, but you still want to tell them in a way that's going to make them want to work on it and not alienate them completely. Yes. You can't just be like, your seams suck. You gotta be like...
gotta be a little more eloquent than that.
You gotta be like, I want you to look into different finishing techniques. I noticed a lot of fraying. You should look up this and this and this for next time, you know? Yeah, I know that's not what our episode is about. But
no. Actually, part of it is I was actually going to go over, like, in my notes, I've got, you know, to go over how to give constructive criticism.
Yes.
And that can be for when judging and whatnot. And I actually have in some notes that I just wrote right now, like how I want to, in the future, approach doing those panels after, you know, I judge,
nice.
is how I want to approach the contestants when they come up asking for advice. Because a lot of times I just look at them and I go, I don't know what to tell you. And I think I've got an idea of how to approach that. I don't know if we want to dive into that now or if we should save it, but...
No, go for it. We're on the topic.
Let's jump into it.
Okay, my idea for that is that they have this post panel, somebody comes up to you as a judge, and they're like, okay, what can I do to do better on my costume? One, I want to make sure I have my notes with me.
Yeah.
And then find the contestant, have my notes ready. Not going to let them see them because my notes are always very quick and written for me. They're not written for the public. It's mostly seam, and it's like, what does that mean? And I'll look at their costume and be like, oh yeah, the seam was ripped here, or something like that, you know? It's like, why did I write seam? You know, that's what I mean, like, by the notes. And then I'm going to ask them, where do you think you were the weakest, and where do you think you were the strongest on your costume?
Oh, that's a good idea.
That is really good.
And I
don't see that happen nearly enough.
Yeah, and I think that could actually launch into an actual constructive discussion rather than me sitting there and being like, well, if you did this, this, and this, and this better, you know? Mm-hmm. It's more of a discussion, a back and forth. Because, like, I just hate being the one that's like, well, you could do this or you could do that. And I don't want to come off bossy. I want to have an actual discussion about the costume.
Mm-hmm. No, I like that, because then you know you're addressing things they are genuinely concerned about, and not just like chipping on something that maybe that they were proud of, you know?
Yeah.
Like, no, I thought I did this part really well. Why are you?
Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's they know that they had a problem with that part, and so they don't want to be told what they already know they had an issue with, but rather they're like, I had a problem with this part. How could I do this better in the future? Or I feel like this part went well, but I saw a judge kind of sigh when they looked at it. What do you think that meant? You know?
Oh no.
It's like, I hope no one does that, but you know.
Right.
And that way you get their interpretation of what they feel of their costume and then help them make it better. I feel like that would work anyways.
No, I love that. I definitely want to, like, take that into account next time I do that.
Yeah.
My small piece of advice is don't give anybody a crap sandwich.
Give them a compliment sandwich.
Yeah. it's, you start with something good, you give them something bad, and then you end with something good. Nobody really cares about the bread. That's why it's not called a bread BLT. It's just it's whatever the contents is, and that's only what they're going to focus on. So
Right.
you're not doing anyone a favor by just saying, well, I really like how your stitch work on your bodice was. On this piece, however, you needed some work. Oh, and your wig is really nice. It's like you're only going to focus on that middle thing because like you're only focusing on the thing that is affecting you, right?
Right.
Always have like a reason or at least like a challenge to it of like, I really like this. I think what could work really well next time is trying a few different techniques. I found that this works for me, but not necessarily just like, you should try that thing. This has worked for me in the past. You may enjoy that. It's kind of inviting them to try it instead of just saying like, this is where it's wrong, especially if you're a cosplay judge and these people are looking up to you as these pinnacles of cosplay hood of what it means to be a good cosplayer. By inviting them to say, hey, this is what works for me, you're giving them that same kind of insight.
Yes. And I also really like the compliment sandwiches because like it starts off with, okay, here's something I like about your costume. Here's where it needs work, but also I still like this. So and it starts on a happy note and ends on a happy note. With your conversation instead of, just being like, well, here's everything wrong with it.
Right.
Yeah.
So jumping back onto jealousy.
Yes.
Yes.
So all the advice we just gave is for if they ask for that advice in the first place.
So I feel like we've kind of touched on it with what we've talked about with like building bridges and learning more. Well, I think one of the most important things is to decide what you want to get out of cosplay. Like if your goal is, to chase for likes, or if it's to become a better skilled person, or if it's to just like learn a lot more in your field of crafting, or even just to like learn how to do better TikTok videos, try to make that as your mindset, especially when it comes to jealousy, because like that's challenging yourself and pinpointing where you want to get better rather than like allowing how well other people are doing to get to you. I don't know. That was one of the things that like light bulbed for me is like, what do I want to get out of cosplay? What like I am jealous of so and so for this, or jealous of this person for that, but like, well, what do I want out of this?
Yeah.
Like, do I want that same thing, or do I want something different? And then how do I go about making a plan to chase that?
Yeah. And again, like you don't know the struggles that they went through to get to that point.
Right.
We can look at Bill Duran and Kamui Cosplay and Yaya Han, and this is literally their jobs. Do you really want to do this as your full-time job? You know how quick you're going to get carpal tunnel?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I already...
you know what your lungs are going to go through if you're working with all this foam, if you're not wearing the proper protective gear.
Yeah.
Look at Adam Savage, and he gets yelled at by his fans because he did a test spray, and he goes, I know, I'm so bad, I'm so sorry. But it's just like, if this is going to be your livelihood, you need to accept all of the bad that's going to come with the good.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
So
definitely.
Like, yes, you can still be envious of what they have, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to enjoy it if you had it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, like, if that is what you want, then you got to look at them as inspiration versus competition.
Right.
What can you learn from them? And go from there to help yourself grow and help others around you grow.
Yeah. One of the other things, especially with like social media, that's so important to understand. Like, success is not always about your skill level in cosplay. There may be cosplayers of the exact same level that have completely different followings. And I feel like that's because not all opportunities are equal. Not everybody's going to have the same chances. Not everybody's going to have the same opportunities. And that doesn't mean anyone is better or less than someone else. It just means that they've had a different path in life that has let them, I guess, get more likes or have less likes, or have, like, maybe they're better at social media posting and they know all their hashtags and they know people they can reach out to, whereas maybe you don't. And finding like your own weak points can help you take a step up in your own game.
Definitely.
Very much so. And coming back to like the like your costume itself, that you're comparing whether you've made it or you're looking to make that dream costume and someone else has done it, you're gonna have your own style,
right?
And even if you go into a convention and there's 5 links there, each link is going to have their own unique interpretation of how that character is, like the clothing, the materials, the whole idea around it is just going to have their own style attached to it. And even if you're not sure what your style is, as you make more and more costumes and see what other people are doing, you'll find it. And it's going to be amazing.
No, I think that's a very good point, because like I remember judging a competition and there were like 5 Princess Serenities or Sailor Moons throughout this competition, and every single one of them did things differently. They choose different fabrics, they did different embellishments, they constructed it different. And it was just so fascinating to me to be like, it's so cool, like how people approach these, like nobody did it exactly the same. And just remembering that what you bring is unique is also a really important mindset to have.
Definitely.
I actually wanted to mention Mercedes, that like one of the things I was really impressed with about you when, like especially when we started doing the podcast version of the blog that you already had, was that you went out of your way to lift others up with your platform, to showcase the work of other people and to appreciate what they had done. And I think gaining that perspective is like so helpful. Being able to appreciate other people's work has definitely helped my own, and it has lifted up other people. It has brought spotlights to people that may not have had them before.
Oh, yes.
And that's like one of the things I love about our podcast and getting to interview all of our different guests is like getting to be like, wow, that's really cool. But also getting to be like, I mean, some of them are like way more popular than our podcast is, but also getting to be like, hey, this other person, you guys should know about them because they're really cool.
Really cool, really nice. No,
yeah.
For real. And like I've said this before, I started the blog because I realized I was getting full of myself, thinking, for one, that I thought I was better than Pannon.
Oh my god!
No, I'm but no, for real. Like I did start it because I noticed I became self-aware that I was becoming a bit of a jerk, and thinking I was like, no, I'm not better than everybody else. I'm still learning. I'm still growing, and you know what? I'm going to force myself to showcase other people who are also learning and growing and are amazing. And
yeah,
that's how the blog started.
No, I like that very much. I think it is a wonderful mindset, and I think it has, I mean, it has affected me as well, because yeah, I get to have fun and take part in this, and I feel like we have learned a lot from each other, and I'm glad that you reached out and were like, let's learn together.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's like, hey. Well, it was mostly we would not shut up about cosplay at work. We're like, we should do a podcast on that.
Right.
And like, you can be in a very confident place with yourself and still have moments of down, of just like, I will never be as good as X, as any of these things or people, and maybe if I had these tools, maybe if I had this and that and the other thing. And it's like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because like I every time that I sign in and upload our podcast and get everything ready to go, I look at our numbers and I get envious. I get really envious because like, man, I want my other podcast to have these numbers. And there are days where that's like, yeah, but I'm a part of it. And this is also my podcast in the sense that we're all building this together, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And there are other days where it's just like, man, I'm never going to get these numbers. Like, this sucks. But it's just one of those things that, like, I'm going to oscillate between those two things sometimes because I'm human and my wants and desires are going to naturally flux with whatever's happening in my day-to-day. So
absolutely,
you're allowed to have low moments, but back to what Pannon said, it depends on what you do with them. Because my reminder is, I am so lucky to do this show with Pannon and Mercedes. Like, this is one of the best experiences I've had since I nervously reached out to the two of you. What was it? 2 years ago now? 3 years ago?
Yeah, dang. And see, we feel like I'm sure this is a shared feeling, so I'm saying it. But like, we feel so lucky to have you. Not meaning this is like a let's pat each other on the back kind of thing, but like, honestly, the work you do editing and like helping to motivate us and like even poking us about scheduling and things like that. Like, you do so much, and like this is definitely a podcast that is put together like by three very important parts.
Definitely.
I feel,
and like, you as the audience listener, you may feel that you don't have that team, but like, look at our Facebook page. Look at like this group of people that want to celebrate you and support you. I am like one of the first people to like every single thing I see on the Work in Progress Wednesdays, because what your work is awesome. Oh
man, I freaking love looking at those.
It's so much fun. And seeing all the posts in there and everybody building each other up. Like, you guys, you make me like teary-eyed some days. But I feel like, the world is crap. I look at the group and I'm like, we got a good group. You guys are good people.
Yay.
David, edit out our awkward silence, please.
No, I'm leaving it in.
I overshared and now there's awkward.
I don't know. I'll mention this in passing, and this can be like a blooper thing. But like, I think it's just one of those beautiful moments of like, when you do overshare, you're all just kind of like having this compersion of like, I'm so happy you're happy and I'm happy, and we're all just gonna sit with this feeling for a moment. So I never feel like when you share, like, it's an awkward silence. It's just kind of like a, things are pretty good, aren't they?
Yeah.
Now, end of the edit, and we can go back to the regular show.
No, I think that's good that we can kind of like finish on a positive note and be thinking of these good things about each other. Was there anything else you guys wanted to cover?
I think that was like the main gist of it, of like, it's okay to feel jealous. It's okay to have that heartache feeling when you see someone with a costume where you're like, I don't know, I don't think I'll ever be that good. But know that you're still on your path, they're on their path, and just focus on what can you do to get there, if that's where you want to be, or how can we continue to, again, make this, again, a building thing where we build each other up rather than tearing each other down.
And also, like, the reason we are doing this episode in the first place is because this is a feeling everybody gets.
Totally.
I don't think there is a single cosplayer out there who has not felt it at one time or another. So, like, even just remembering that, like, you're not the only person that's feeling this way, that suffers in that same manner, that has these same thoughts. And like, everybody has things they want to work on and sees people doing awesome things, and wants to be able to do that too.
And I oscillate between two feelings. One, I am the most important and pivotal piece to whatever I am working on at that point in time, or I am complete and utter garbage. Please stop looking at me. No. Don't stop. Whatever you're doing, stop. No.
I feel that, and it's usually the second one.
Right? Yeah.
Dude, I am making some gloves right now, and I'm like, this is a disaster.
And you are going to suffer and you are going to succeed, and the succeeds are going to feel really great, and sometimes the losses are going to feel just to the point where you feel like you should quit. And I've been talking about my writing for the past several episodes, and there were days where I literally could not write a single word. And that sucked, and it made me think, do I stop? Should I stop trying so hard? And the answer is no. You push through it, and it sucks, and it hurts, and it's frustrating, and it's scary. But that mindfulness, that willingness to work on yourself and to challenge yourself to grow in different areas is one of the most important things that you can do for yourself, other than keeping up and finishing the cosplay that you're working on right now.
Absolutely.
And if you're ever feeling down and you don't feel like you've got anyone to reach out in our group. There's always going to be somebody that's going to jump in there and want to uplift you or be like, hey, how about, we try this thing, or you're doing great, you've got it. It's like, we want to cheer each other on in this group. Like, again, you guys are amazing.
Yay. Well, on that happy note, if you guys have some wholesome stories that you want to share with us, if you have some struggles and hard times you want to share with us, please do email us at CosplayStitchandSeam@gmail.com. Or
you can go to the website and fill out our Google form at CosplayStitchandSeam.com.
Or you can go to our Facebook page and share your comments there and join our Work in Progress Wednesdays. While you're there and you're on the internet, leave us a review. It's the season for sharing, season for caring. Leaving us that review helps us. And we love hearing your feedback. We are not perfect podcasters in any way, shape, or form, so we are more than happy to hear what you have to say.
Feedback is welcome.
Exactly. And we will take the crap sandwich sometimes too. While you're on the internet, if you want to continue helping us out, we do have our Patreon, patreon.com/CosplayStitch, where you can join our live streams every first Sunday of the month, where we play D&D with Jazzy and Dustin, and they are so awesome to play with, and I love playing with Fire and Pannon. They have some really great ideas, and I'm loving it.
Yay! I'm so excited for our upcoming episode, December 6th at 12 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. It's going to be wonderful and festive and fun.
Gotta save my buddies!
Also, if you want to join us in other live streams, make sure that you follow us on our twitch.tv/CosplayStitch. That's where we do other stuff, live streaming our cosplay builds, where by the time this episode's aired, we have just finished our Among Us game. So make sure that you follow us there, and you can hang out free of charge, and we'll just continue talking to you there. It'll be great.
Yes.
I feel like we forget to mention that one all the time. We do announce it in the Facebook groups, but please join our Twitch, and it's so much fun.
Once a month-ish. Sometimes we miss a month, but we try to stream once a month. We don't have a...
It's 2020. Everyone understands.
Yeah.
Thank you, as always, to Macy Roberts for the use of her theme song, and to David Jeffress for his amazing editing of our podcast, because we haven't shown him enough love. Let's hear about yours. What projects you got going?
So, I just recorded earlier today for Comic Trades Monthly. We did X-Men Schism, and we decided our next month's book is going to be the Dresden Files comic book, the first one, Welcome to the Jungle.
They have a comic book?
They have several comic books written by Jim Butcher.
Oh, no.
Dope.
It is very, very dope. It's gonna be great, and I'm very excited about it. And on Dungeons & Chill, we're still keeping up with our Curse of Strahd game. I'm really excited to see what happens next, because depending on what happens, we might move back into the regular game, which I am missing so hardcore. I love me some good homebrew content. Also, if you have any D&D podcasts that you recommend, I am all ears.
Yeah, do it. Recommend.
Sweet. Thanks, as always, for listening. We love you guys. Thank you for being so active in our Facebook groups and for joining us on our streams. It's super fun. I hope you guys are having a wonderful holiday. Remember to be that positive change you want to see in your community. And starts with you.
Yeah. Bye, you guys.
Bye, guys. Bye.